Nail or beauty school was just the beginning, right? What on earth do you do now? Welcome to the Salon Success Podcast with Monaco Nail Academy. Our topics stretch beyond nails and into all things salon related business, marketing, and social media. And at very least, hits you with real, honest stories about our experiences. This isn't school, this is real life, real business, and really freaking hard work. Before we get started, wherever you are, thumbs up, tag a friend in the comments, or hit that share button and support small business. Kia ora koutou. Hey guys, it's Pat here from Monaco Nail Academy, and today I am joined by
It's me, Mel from
Erin.
Jungle Nails.
Erin from Little Moon Nails.
Amazing. And just a reminder before we get started, you can use our codes for cheeky 10% off any of the Monaco courses. We do get a kickback from the enrollments depending on whose code you use. But that is how we support the production of the podcast. So please do get the courses. My code is PATSITIVE.
My affiliate code is Jungle Nails.
And mine is Little Moon.
So before we get stuck into the juicy topic of refunds, let's revisit last week's lesson. Mel, do you remember what we were talking about last week?
Yep, so last week we were talking about the dangers of undercharging and how it can affect like your whole presence within the industry community, your sort of image, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about undercharging and everything to do with that last week. We got into all sorts of things. Erin, when you think of undercharging, is there any lessons that you've learned, anything you want to talk about?
I think so. I've always been terrible at charging nail art appropriately. So I think that it's really good to learn from the get-go what everyone else in that area is charging for their nail art, so you can sort of like base yourself off that when you first start, because I've always personally struggled with that. That would be my biggest tip.
Ooh, we talked about nail art a lot. So if anyone is interested in nail art and pricing, you definitely have to check out last week's episode. Thank you for sharing, Erin. Okay, so we're going to move on from the dangers of undercharging. This week, we are going to be talking about refunds. Erin, would you like to share the disclaimer?
So this episode has been put together from extensive research into the Consumer Guarantees Act and the Fair Trading Act. However, we do wish you to know that despite a request to do so, the information in this lesson has not been verified by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. We recommend that you rely only on the most up-to-date information from www.consumerprotection.govt.nz and that you contact the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment on 0508 for consumer to clarify anything you are unsure of.
So refunds, hey? When we are talking about refunds today and we talk about the law, we are specifically talking about the law as it applies here in New Zealand, but you can still listen to this even if you're based overseas. The idea of refunds applies everywhere, but if we are talking about specific law, please do make sure you're looking at the law that applies within your country. Okay, that's important. So here in New Zealand, refund policies are guided by both the Consumer Guarantees Act and the Fair Trading Act. In fact, you don't really need to have a refund policy at all unless you want to offer refunds that go beyond what is required by the law. As in, if you want to be nicer than required, then you can make a refund policy. But other than that, at a minimum, you have to apply the law. So you might choose to have the applicable points of the Act displayed as a form of refund policy, just so everyone is on the same page in your salon, but you don't have to make it your absolute highest priority. So for example, those extended warranties that we get hounded with at the appliances store, they're actually kind of useless because the acts are so watertight that most of the things they cover under the extended warranty would be covered by the law anyway. So kind of pro tip, maybe don't pay for the extended warranty. Just saying. As a seller, Under the Consumer Guarantees Act, you automatically make a series of guarantees to a customer when they purchase a good or service from you. So for us, it's really all about the service. These apply to both new and secondhand goods and also services purchased from a seller who is, quote, in trade, unquote, and intended for use for personal, domestic, or household use. As a side note, if you're like, what the heck is in trade? Well, in trade is defined as regularly selling products or services or regularly buying to sell on. Frequency is a deciding factor. As neither qualifications or business location are a factor, the customers of unqualified people who are offering beauty services for sale from unlicensed premises are still covered by the Act if that person is offering services regularly. Goods and services purchased for commercial use aren't covered. So that's really interesting to think about, right? So, um, Jane Doe down the road who may not know how to apply gel polish, but if she does it regularly and she offers it as a service, even if she's only charging $5 a week, she's still covered by the Act and she actually needs to follow the Consumer Guarantees Act and Fair Trading Act. Isn't that interesting?
It is really interesting. You can really dive into it. Yeah, it is.
It's just interesting hearing you say about the extended warranty. I actually didn't know that, so good tip.
Now you know. I used to buy those extended warranties, and then my husband was like, the law basically says all of that anyway, so why are you paying for that? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll save some money. Anyway, so because we are talking about salon success in this podcast, we're going to focus more on services rather than goods, since that's what we all offer primarily. But we do want to just note that slightly different rules apply to any retail stock items that we sell through our salon. So just keep that in mind. But we do want to particularly focus on services because that's what it's all about. So the compulsory guarantees that we are each required to make by law are that our services will be, number one, performed with reasonable care and skill; two, fit for the particular purpose they were supplied; three, completed within a reasonable time; and four, a reasonable price if no price has been previously agreed. Okay, so the Fair Trading Act also applies to our sales, but more so when it comes to how we advertise them. So the Fair Trading Act covers the way things were sold. Like if, generally claims about services from before they were actually purchased, complaints about misleading marketing, that sort of thing. The Consumer Guarantees Act is more about what happens after you get the purchase home, generally claims about services after they were actually purchased. So, if we think about it, Fair Trading Act is kind of like to do with before they pay, and consumer guarantees is after they pay. Okay. And this is what will normally apply. This Consumer Guarantees Act is what will normally apply if someone wants a refund in your salon. Anyway, in terms of refunds, when a customer buys a product or service, the contract is considered final unless breached. Even if you didn't actually present and sign a contract, the contract is assumed. So we're all just out here making contracts all the time and we don't even know it. If the client simply changes their mind, their circumstances change, or they find cheaper services elsewhere, you do not have to provide a refund on any deposits or prepayments made. Okay, interesting. Interestingly, if they cancel a booking or appointment before any services are commenced, they have also still entered in a contract, and if you have suffered a loss, you may be able to charge them. So, if, for example, a hen's party had booked out an entire salon and several staff for a full event, and they canceled with only a couple of days' notice, and for whatever reason you didn't charge a 50% deposit, you would definitely want to chase them up because that is a big amount of money, right? But on the other hand, if someone canceled their gel manicure and it was only $50, it might be worth letting it go and just offering to let them reschedule, because is it worth losing a customer over a $50 manicure instead of helping them stay on your books for the next few years, right? What do you two think about that?
I agree. Sometimes the hassle even if they're not going to come back, sometimes like the hassle and the stress of it is just not worth it for a small amount of money to be then get like sometimes nasty replies and things like that. Sometimes it's just easier to just call it a loss and let them go, let them walk away. And that's definitely what I kind of do anyway. I don't want that, stress and negativity for not a huge amount of money. I just usually let them get their way and off they go. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Mel. I think, like you say, if it's just a small amount, it's not worth the grief. And I think also, like, that's where your like policies and procedures comes into. Like, if you've got those solid and grounded in, you can then choose to enforce them and have a leg to stand on. And I think, like, at those really busy times in the salon, like Christmas and that's where taking a deposit is really good, because people forget at that time of year because they get so busy and that type of thing. That just helps cover you as well. If you've taken that, even if it's just 20% or whatever, just helps you with that kind of thing. But yeah, I think a big massive like booked out time for a bridal party or something like Pat mentioned, you would want to be having a deposit or at least chasing it if you hadn't.
I think different situations, and also just being like, I don't know, I try and be really like understanding of people's situations, especially like mums and that, like if their kids, the school's rung, I've got to go pick them up, like I'm not gonna say, well, you have to pay, because I get it, stuff happens. But yeah, in other cases when they're just blatantly not showing up or cancelling, you definitely want to have something like in place for yourself there.
Yeah, I think goodwill is really important, right? Like if someone needs to reschedule, technically, yeah, okay, so I can charge you $50 for the full service that you missed. But is it worth it to do that when actually if I just let you reschedule, I might be able to fill in that slot anyway and still make that money. Like let's say it's Christmas time or it's like a busy period. On top of that, if they paid a deposit, then I keep the deposit. And on top of that, they'll be happy that they can reschedule. So it's kind of like a win-win-win-win. But totally, depending on what it is, we should still be able to chase them up. Erin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think it's gone now. Sorry. Chain of thought. Just
Oh,
went.
no. That's all right. Okay, we'll carry on. So, if it's not a case of changing of someone's mind and actually you have breached the guarantees that you automatically made when the booking was finalized, then we may be required to give a refund. So, this would be things like your service wasn't performed with reasonable care or skill, the nails you did weren't fit for their intended purpose. So, for example, they all fell off a day later, unless it was like party nails, in which case you already told them it's not going to last. Or the client told you they were going horse riding tomorrow, and then you still put a full set of stilettos on them, like really, really. Yeah. Or the service was not completed in a reasonable time. So if you told them, oh, it's only going to be an hour, and then you end up taking 4. Okay, they could ask for a refund. So it's about reasonable expectations. On the other hand, if we did say it's going to take 4, even though 4 hours is a long time, because we told them it's 4 and it takes 4, that's okay. Or if we charge an unreasonable price, and reasonable is usually measured in comparison to other professionals doing the same service, but if you're charging twice as much as the next person in your area, that could be considered unreasonable. But it depends on the situation. So we were talking about don't undercharge in the last episode. So if the cut price salon is charging half of what you're charging, I don't think that is, or like people in Facebook Marketplace charging $20. I don't think people can ask for a refund because we charge 60 if the price should be 60 and someone is just undercutting people by charging 20. I don't think that's what the law is getting at. But if everyone is like charging $60 and you're out here charging 200 for no reason, then they could probably go after you. But then if you say, yeah, it's $200, but that's because I charged for all these extra things, like I charged for all the bling. What if you use actual jewelry in your sets? What if you do really intricate nail art? Then that still could be considered reasonable, right? Like, Yeah, so many things to consider. So don't be afraid to charge properly because you're afraid that someone's going to ask for a refund because you're unreasonable in your price. Just randomly got on a soapbox.
I think you'd have to be a pretty odd sort of person to be asking for a refund in those circumstances.
As long as it was clear, like they know what they're paying, they know what they're going to get, then yeah, you both agree on that when they pay. And I think, yeah, communication.
It's totally about communication, isn't it? Yeah. Before we continue on with the podcast, we just want to take a quick ad break to talk about Subscribe and Save. Okay, so if you are based in New Zealand and you want to get on top of your salon supplies or training, then you will want to sign up for Subscribe and Save because it's a super easy Monaco subscription. So you have three options. You choose either $10, $20, or $30 a week. And every 12 weeks, you will get a coupon for the Monaco website, which includes bonus credit above and beyond your subscription value. So if you pay $10 a week, you get a $130 coupon every 12 weeks, which means you save 8%. If you pay $20 per week, you get a $270 coupon every 12 weeks and you save 11%. And if you pay the most, which is $30, you get a $430 coupon every 12 weeks, which saves you 16% on your total order. So there are no cash refunds on any payments. However, you can cancel at any time and be given a coupon for the exact value you have contributed. Discounts are only earned by those who hit the 12-week milestone. But isn't that exciting? You can subscribe and save. So if you're in New Zealand and you want to try that out, just go to Subscribe and Save on the Monaco Nail Academy website. If you have breached the act or one of those guarantees, like you took too long or came off or something, like it wasn't up to par, all that stuff, but the problem is minor and can be fixed, you can choose to either repair, replace, or give a refund. So you can pick. If the problem can't be fixed, or can be fixed, but it's not in a reasonable time, or it's really serious, then the rights swing back again to the client. So again, it's about, they may be able to reject the repair or the replacement. They might demand a full refund, or they might even be like, I'm actually going to go somewhere else and get it repaired there, and then you have to cover the costs. The refund they are entitled to, it can't be a store or salon credit. So it either needs to be cash, check, or credit card reversal, which is really interesting. But just remember that the client must give you the opportunity to remedy the issue or like fix it. It's only if you refuse or if you fail to remedy it in a reasonable time that they can demand a refund or have the repair done by someone else and recover the costs from you. And for more serious issues that can't be fixed easily or unsafe, the client can cancel the contract of service and refuse to pay for the work done so far. And if we are looking at how do we decide if a problem is serious, these are some of the factors. Okay, so a problem can be considered serious if, one, a reasonable person would not have booked the service if they were fully aware of the problem. For example, if someone called to book and you told them you were definitely going to cut them with your file, would they still have booked? No? Then that's quite serious. Number two, the service is unfit for a particular purpose that you were told about and can't easily be fixed within a reasonable time. For example, a client says they want black nails because they work with ink and paint all day, and you convince them to get French with a stain-resistant top coat, but when they do actually stain in the first week, you can't fit them in for a repair for 3 weeks. Number three, the service can't be expected to achieve a particular result that the client specifically asked for and can't be easily fixed within a reasonable period of time. So, for example, if a client said that they needed nails that would last 8 weeks and you gave them a full set of acrylics on the promise that they would in fact last 8 weeks, but now they've all lifted in 5 weeks and you can't fit her in for a month. So that's something else to consider. And then the last thing is that, was the service unsafe? And so you need to think about making sure you're flaunting your health and safety plan. So it's up to us as the business owner to assess the problem and to provide enough information that the client can make an educated decision about their options for repair. For example, You can discuss the risks with replacing a full set, but you can also offer a removal as an alternative if that's what they would prefer. If the client tries to cancel a service part way and their complaint can be fixed, is not unsafe, and they didn't make it clear what they wanted, or if you advised them against the service and they insisted on it, they can't object halfway through and then not pay for their service. They can absolutely object and leave, but they need to pay. So again, that's if the complaint can be fixed, it's not unsafe, and they didn't make it clear what they wanted, or we advised against whatever it is that we're doing right now, and they're like, no, we still want it. So if we had told them, you really shouldn't get acrylics, bro, and then they went ahead and like, no, you need to give me acrylics. If they get up and leave halfway through, that's on them. They still need to pay us. So that's good to know. And when a service failure is due to events outside our control, whether during or after the appointment, then the Consumer Guarantees Act does not apply. And if you do decide to have a refund policy, make sure that whatever it is you write doesn't breach the Consumer Guarantees Act. So you can include clauses like time limits on returns, offering exchanges, requiring proof of purchase. But if a service is faulty, then you do have to remedy, replace, or refund. So if you want an example of that, Penny has given us this example.
Okay, so your service with Susie's Nail Salon is covered by the Consumer Guarantees Act. If you believe your service was not A, performed with reasonable care and skill, B, fit for the purpose it was intended, if purpose was disclosed prior to service commencement, for example, you need to be able to swim every day without your nails falling off. C, completed within a reasonable time frame, if time not quoted prior to service commencement. D, a reasonable price, if price not quoted prior to service commencement. And E, safe.
So you could definitely have a policy like that. And if that's how you've written your policy, then you as the salon owner and the consumer both have rights under the Consumer Guarantees Act. So me as a salon owner, I have the right to choose to either repair, replace, or refund the service as long as I can do so in a reasonable time frame. But if I cannot meet those conditions, then you as the consumer, you have the right to a full refund or to seek repair elsewhere and request compensation from me. But if the client is just like, nah, I changed my mind, or your circumstances change, or you find cheaper services elsewhere, we do reserve the right to refuse refund of any deposits or prepayments made in advance of the booking. If the consumer attends the appointment but refuses our right to repair or replace within a reasonable time frame, or if you didn't disclose the intended purpose for your nails, like somebody goes horse riding every day, but they didn't tell us before they requested acrylic extensions, or if we advise against the service and then they chose to ignore our advice, then we still reserve the right to refuse a refund or to require payment of services already partially completed. So that's where the communication aspect really comes into place. And I think that's where doing an in-depth client consultation will really help both the client and us make sure we're on the same page and we're not doing anything that's, not going to be helpful for them. Because also we don't want to waste our time doing services that they're not going to use, right? If you require further advice as a client and you have already discussed your concerns with us as the beauty professional, well, then you can contact the Disputes Tribunal to lodge a claim for a breach of your rights under the Consumer Guarantees or Fair Trading Acts. You can also contact the Commerce Commission if you wish to report us for false or misleading statements or conduct, or even to the Privacy Commission if you believe your privacy has been breached. So there's like a lot of like information there, and it's like, ooh, am I supposed to present this to the clients because that sounds scary? But also, we might think that like, oh my gosh, do clients need to see these because that's scary? What if they're just out to get me and they want to make our lives hard? But really, there are not that many people out there who have nothing better to do than complain about our business to the Disputes Tribunal, especially because the Disputes Tribunal will probably look at it and be like, what are you even complaining about? So, if you have a refund policy that has all this information, it does say to every other client that, you're so confident that you have nothing to complain about, then I'm going to tell you how to complain about me because there's nothing to complain about. And I think that's a show of confidence. It will also reduce the number of silly little complaints because if you know your own rights, then that shows that they can't just pull the wool over our eyes and take us for a ride because we know our rights, we know their rights, and we're going to respect their rights, but also we're going to stand up for ourselves.
It's there to protect us both, right? Like, it's not just there so they can complain about us. It's there so we know what they're expecting from us and we can make sure we're like delivering our side of the deal and then what also we expect from them.
It's a two-way thing. It's not one-sided, Someone's paying for a service and it's just the same for us if we go pay for a service from someone else, We want to know that we're getting what we're paying for and what we want.
And I suppose it's not very like how many of us have ever used like the, hire people. You just don't. You usually go in and you say you're not happy and it gets remedied and everyone's happy. Like,
it would have to be really bad for someone to complain.
Yeah. So I don't think you should let it frighten you. But definitely needs to be like understood and yeah, if anything, like you say, your rights. You don't have to just go, oh, okay, here's your money back. You can say like, I can repair that for you. And yeah.
I think also too, like in the nail industry specifically, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I'm in it because I'm passionate about it and I enjoy it. I take pride in my work. So if someone was to complain, I'd take that pretty seriously. Like I would want to fix it and improve. As the service provider, I'm not scared of complaints, but I want to do everything I can to avoid them,
And then handle them when they do come in, not just brush it off.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to improve and keep them, grow. And
you want happy clients.
So Penny's not with us for this episode, but she did give us a little example from her experience. So she wrote, in all my years as a nail technician, I've had many complaints, and anyone who has been in the industry 10 years and say they haven't is lying. Some complaints were completely understandable and some were ridiculous. The ones that were understandable, we dealt with accordingly, and I've only ever had one client tell me they know their rights, to which I replied, then you will understand that because our aftercare instructions do make it clear that you should stay away from water for extended periods of time for 48 hours after your appointment, and since you did go straight to the spa day the next day, the repair I'm offering you is in excess of what is required of me by the Consumer Guarantees Act. And I bet she really did say it that way.
Yeah.
That particular complaint didn't go any further. Okay. Yeah. So it also brings up a good point. So, we will probably, for us, because we do quality work, we will often repair, replace, or refund in excess of what is required by the law, right? Just because, Erin, like you said it, we want clients to be happy. And unless the complaint is like super ridiculous, then you'll probably at least humor them the first time. And then you'll be like, here's a waiver sheet. You should be knowing these things. Don't do this, don't do that. And that's to protect yourself for future appointments. So even if you know that they picked off all their nails in the first 7 days and you can see it from just the nail bed, then or the nail plate, sorry, then you'll still honor your service guarantee. And then next time you're like, here's the waiver. Don't, please look at this waiver. Because, then they know they were pushing it and they're trying their best to get away with what they know they've done wrong. But if we not only repair their nails and then show we know what they did, and then they see that we offer great service, but also that we can't be played. So it's kind of like, I'm going to be nice to you this time. And then they can't complain to their friends because we were nothing but lovely to them. And the issue will only come up again if they go against our advice.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly how I would handle it. Sometimes you might have a few issues with their nails if their nails are problematic, sometimes you need to work together for a few appointments to remedy it, because there might be something that's, you might be trying to solve
Damage
whether
from
a product
something,
is really suitable for their nail. Like sometimes it can take a couple appointments to really figure that out if they're problematic nails. And that's where the whole teamwork thing comes in. It's about them going away and following your advice or recommendations and looking after their nails and oiling their cuticles and doing everything. So yeah, if you've got a client that just takes the piss, then you'll soon find out. So yeah, that's it.
Pulled your nails off, now you've ruined them. So don't expect this set to last magically well, like it's going to take a little bit to get the nails strong again. And I think people understand their expectations, just managing expectations.
I think we're in a world of instant gratification now, and it's kind of like sometimes people just don't realize that it's not always that simple, with nail services.
All of us would go above what's expected because we want to. We want you to leave happy. We want, you to get your goal just as much as we want you to get there.
Yeah, like going above and beyond, like, okay, cool. So we spend 30 or 60 minutes to appease a difficult client. And, that might be worth it because then we save money in terms of advertising to reduce bad word of mouth if that person is going to go around yapping about how we didn't even help fix their nails, right? So it's worth the money and time to just go ahead and do it. And potentially, someone who had a bad service and they're really unhappy with you. But it does happen that if you go above and beyond in taking care of them when you're trying to fix it, that they're just going to completely forget about the initial shitty experience and they're just going to love you. And so that's worth the good word of mouth. And yeah, there's probably going to be a client who is going to go around talking about how terrible we are anyway. But people like that tend to do that to everyone. And so people will kind of just know that, oh, you're talking shit about Pat's salon, but you talk shit about everyone. So, okay,
Yeah. I was just going to chuck in there too. We all have a bad day, right? We can't always be at 100% all the time. Some days you might just have a day where you're not performing at your best. And if that person isn't prepared to communicate with you, once again, communication, and they just decide to badmouth you, then there's not a lot you can do about that, really. You can only do your absolute best.
And one bad service is not the end of our career, right? We all make mistakes and we all learn, and that's okay. Yeah. Penny has a story here that I'm going to read out because it's very interesting and juicy. So she had a client once who complained about the service that they received, and then Penny redid a whole new full set for her. The client then thanked her and was kind about it and left. And later she found out that this person went around for months telling people how absolutely rubbish they were, exaggerating what happened and leaving out anything that made them look good. And this client didn't realize that an acquaintance of hers was a client of Penny's. And so the second time this client heard her speak about us at a totally separate second event, she gave that lady an absolute earful, made sure everyone knew about her own experiences with Penny, and then called the lady out on what this client knew to be behaviors that would ruin her nails, like seeing her open drawers with her nails, seeing her nibble at the hangnails, which is whoa, okay. So Penny had nothing to do with this. She hadn't seen the complainant for months, but when the client told them about what happened, she had two choices, she said. She said, either we let ourselves be devastated by this perceived slander, or we should be grateful knowing that we had people out there standing up for us. And if the client hadn't told them, then they would have been none the wiser and would have been more focused on the monthly sales reports, which were steadily climbing anyway, than the words of one negative Nancy. So for those of you who just thought to yourselves, yes, but I'm in a small town, negative words hurt my business more. Penny is in a small town now. At the time, she wasn't. So in small towns, the words are concentrated. But in big cities, there's so much choice that one bad thing can be all it takes to turn a client away. They have no reason to ever reconsider you if there are 10 other places in a 5-kilometer radius. But again, that doesn't mean it's the end all be all, right? Yeah, so we can have a good refund policy. It will always be overridden by the law. And B, good service will always override any refund you could possibly give. And C, there will always be bad eggs no matter what you do. Don't let them outweigh the golden ones. Yeah. So much to talk about. Refunds. Whoa.
Yeah, people will appreciate being like listened to and offered a solution, because a lot of times they'll just get like, food out the door. Like, people don't care, just get lost. So I think they really do appreciate when you treat them with kindness and offer a solution. And most of the time they're really, really grateful. And yeah, I also live in a small town, and we all know the people that just complain about everything. So when they start complaining, you'll see everybody's eyes just roll back, and they're just like, oh my God, shut up. Like, they know that they're just complaining because they complain about everything.
That's so funny. Do either of you have a specific refund story that you want to share?
I have refunded one lady. She actually lived out of town. But basically she just wasn't happy, which meant because she was out of town, she couldn't come back to me. So I couldn't offer a repair or da-da-da. So I just said to her, like, I'm really sorry you're not happy. Like, here's your money back, And I think she actually ended up coming back to me next time she was back in town. Like, she was really like, oh, thank you so much, and da-da-da-da. But I haven't had to do it much, not that I can remember. So I wonder this question too, like, our obligations was to offer a repair or replacement. So what if they can't come back? Or if you go, oh yeah, I could repair your nail on Friday at 10 o'clock, and they go, no, that doesn't work for me. I don't know. What do you do then?
I would probably just say these are the times I have available. If they don't suit, I'm happy to give you a refund.
Yeah. And that's what this case was for me. Like, I knew she couldn't get back to me, and I didn't want to just be like, oh, well, too bad. So I just said to her, like, I'll just repay the money back to you, and next time you're in town, like, you're welcome to come back. And I think she actually did end up coming back.
I think that makes sense, because it's like, it has to be reasonable.
I've never had to refund. I haven't actually had to refund anyone. I've always just done a repair, so I guess I've been lucky in that sense. They've always just come back to me. So, yeah, that's just been my experience. So, or I've just said I'll give you a free set or a discounted set next time or whatever. Yeah. So
people just appreciate it, just being heard and understood.
The only thing I can think of that was kind of a refund situation was I did someone's lashes, and then it was really irritating their eyes, and it had nothing to do with how I did it. I just didn't realize that they actually had really serious dry eye. And so the lashes were making it, like, the dry eye worse. So instead of doing a refund, I just got her to come in, and then I took it off, and then that solved the problem. Usually I would charge for a removal, but because it was to kind of fix the situation, I was like, babe, don't even bother paying. We're just trying to fix this. She was like super cool about that. So she still comes to see me for nails, which is like, okay, can't come here for lashes. I'll see you for nails then. So yeah, I guess it's just about doing what we need to do to fix the situation. And yeah, it just comes back to that communication stuff, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Know your rights, but then, it can usually be fixed just by a bit of caring and understanding and effort to remedy whatever their situation is. And then, yeah, either they'll never come back to you or they'll appreciate it and they'll come back. But either way, you've kind of killed them with kindness. Like, you've done everything you could to fix the situation. So there's nothing really that they can hold against you. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just be a genuine person, really.
Yeah.
Don't be an ass.
Yeah, and it probably, I'm just thinking about food now. Sometimes you get shitty service at a restaurant, and then they all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, don't worry, I'll get you a free drink, here's free dessert. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I actually really like this place. Like, how good.
Yeah.
But I've been to a restaurant where they gave me like just this really crappy, like, freezer burned dessert. Like you could like you looked at it and it's like this looks really like stale and was in the freezer and it looks like it had freezer burn. And I was just like, this is so not cool. And then instead of offering me a full refund, they gave me half a refund in coins and then didn't even offer to give me a new dessert, like not even like ice cream or something. Nope, just here's half of what you paid for. And then ever since then, it became my one goal in life to tell everyone not to go there. Because I was just so taken aback by how they did it. I was like, this is so random. You didn't even apologize for the state of the food. And
Yeah.
I am so confused.
When really, how much would it have cost them to give you another dessert or give you a voucher for a free pudding next time? Or, like not much. And then it would be gone from your brain. You would forget about it. Or you'd be like, wow, that was so cool. They did that.
I would have happily gone back there like all the time if they had just fixed it, like given me something else or something. So not
Yeah.
only did I not get a dessert, like a proper dessert, I didn't get to finish it. I had like 2 bites. So I was like, nah. I didn't even get my money back. So I was just like, no, this is not cool. So, we just have to think about if you were in the client's shoes, what would you want? And then try and be like that. I think we're reasonable people on this call, on this podcast. Just before we wrap up, just want to remind you that we do have something called Subscribe and Save. You can get on top of your salon supplies or training with these super easy Monaco subscriptions. You can either choose to pay $10, $20, or $30 a week, and then every 12 weeks, you will get a coupon for the Monaco website, which includes bonus credit above and beyond your subscription value. For $10 a week, you get a $130 coupon, and that will save you 8%. If you pay $20 per week, you get a $270 coupon and you save 11%. And finally, if you pay $30 per week, you get a $430 coupon and that saves you 16%. And you get a new coupon every 12 weeks. Isn't that exciting? So check out Subscribe and Save on the Monaco Nail Academy website. And with that done and dusted, before you go and disappear on us, please do like our page or follow the podcast so that you don't miss out on the next episode. We will be back next week. Have a great week. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye.